Michael Adrian Carrick is in pole position to take the position of manager at Manchester United or head coach on a permanent basis. Yes, that is according to the latest reports coming in from the UK that we have been able to check out. So, the conversation has been raging on for a couple of weeks. Who will be Manchester United's next manager? We've made suggestions, we've made shortlists, we've made inferences, references, tried to read through the insights, the minds of the minders of Manchester United as regards to who could be their next manager. But we are yet to find the conclusion to that question. However, according to latest reports, Michael Carrick could be the leading candidate to take on the role. Welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert K. Sakos is my name. Hi everyone. So it's a pleasure to be back with you. Thank you so much to all our new subscribers. Do not just stop at subscribing. Go on to watch our content under the video section, under the short section, and the live broadcasts, because we come live to you every single day, morning and evening/night. This time around, we'll be talking about Manchester United's managerial position. While Michael Carrick occupies it as an interim, it has to be filled on a permanent basis in the summer, at least. That is the objective. A summer that is also going to have the World Cup, which tends to disrupt what plans teams have, either when it comes to transfer businesses, managerial appointments, among other things. Well, according to Team Talk, they say or do report that Michael Adrian Carrick is in pole position to take the permanent role of head coach or manager at Manchester United. According to Graham Bailey of Team Talk, he says Michael Carrick is firmly on course to become the next permanent head coach of Manchester United. Team Talk understands a final decision will not be made until the end of the season, but it looks like the former Manchester United and ex-Tottenham midfielder is now leading the race to become the permanent head coach at Manchester United. Perhaps manager. We do not know what title he will be given if he were to be given the role. The question is, why is he suddenly now the leading candidate? First of all, the door was never closed on Michael Adrian Carrick to become Manchester United's permanent head coach. The reason as to why it was never permanently closed is, first of all, you can never say never, because it's life. Circumstances change. Maybe Man United had different plans 2 months ago, and by the time we get to the summer, those plans have changed or their circumstances have shifted. So you do not close the door. In other words, they never told Michael Carrick, you can never become permanent manager of Manchester United. 2, Michael Carrick has proven himself, at least thus far. When he took over Manchester United, they were about, I think, 7th on the Premier League log. As we speak, they are 3rd with 55 points and well in top 4, in pole position to qualify for UEFA Champions League football next season. And that has impressed INEOS. The results that he's managed to post have impressed INEOS, but it's not just about the results. Of course, his winning rate is 70%, having managed the team through 10 games, won 7, drawn 2, that's against West Ham United and against FC Bournemouth, and lost 1, which was the 2-1 defeat away to Newcastle. Really on course, he's beaten teams like Arsenal, teams like Manchester City, he's beaten teams like Tottenham Hotspur, he's managed to beat teams like Fulham, Everton, among others. So, therefore, those impressive results, and this is all prior to the March international break, So, even if you did not like him as an individual, surely those results must be good enough to begin swaying you, to begin softening your stance, to begin changing how you look at him. Do you know that cliche of how the not so beautiful women end up in marriage quicker than the very beautiful women? Well, they say it's about their touch. I don't know what that touch is, but let's return to football. Jokes aside. Anyways, it is becoming apparent that INEOS have also been impressed by his calm leadership and squad handling, as well as his commitment to restore Manchester United standards. What are those standards? never lose a game. It's not over until it's over. That's why against Arsenal, they won it late. Against Fulham, they won it late. You've seen those late goals. You remember that 1-0 victory against Everton? That kind of attitude, the fight, the grit. You've seen Matthias Cunha embody that grit of a Manchester United player. You've seen it in Brian Mbeumo, even though his recent form has not been at the absolute best. But he's brought stability to this team. That calm leadership. You remember when we did a video on this channel about what type of lead, what type of manager do Manchester United need? And we talked about two types of managers. One, the tactically obsessed manager, and then the gentleman type of manager. And we sampled types of Carlo Ancelotti, Zinedine Zidane. These are guys with that calm leadership, with that good man-to-man squad handling. When it comes to the relationships with players, they're very good at it. That's the caliber, or that's the category within which Michael Carrick sort of falls. It's not to say that they do not have their tactics or do not know their tactics. It's just that those tactics are not the primary or the core to the success of the team. It's how they go about the other elements. When we talk about tactically obsessed managers, you'll know that Pep Guardiola is one of those, Mikel Arteta is one of those, Xabi Alonso is one of those, Roberto Di Zerbi is one of those, Luis Enrique is one of those. But in sharp contrast, you will find that people like Carlo Ancelotti, that people like Adrian Carrick, that people like Zinedine Zidane, who is, by the way, bound to become the next France national team manager after Didier Deschamps exits in the summer after the World Cup, at that caliber. There's that stark difference between the two in terms of how they deal with issues. So he has impressed INEOS, and they may be softening their stance about him. They may now be starting to see him in different lenses. Guys, this is not the case of you walking into a bar and see a woman that is not that attractive, but after 4 beers, then they begin to look attractive. This is not the case. It is the case of, I've seen you, you're beautiful, but I think I can do better. Because Manchester United think they can do better than Michael Carrick. Because, like I've said before, he is not the most experienced of candidates that you find out there. But according to Team Talk, Manchester United have also cooled down their interest in two Spanish managers that had been suggested to them by third parties. That's Luis Enrique of PSG and Unai Emery of Aston Villa. Now, the reports say that these were proposed to Manchester United, albeit the club has not gone ahead to make an approach to any of them, and that they are cooling down that bit of interest. You see, sometimes you get suggested an option that was already on your mind, and therefore that could expedite your pursuit of that option. For Manchester United in this case, those two managers have been suggested to them, but they've not made an approach. Why? Because their view on Michael Adrian Carrick is taking a very interesting turn. It's a gradual process. So that's one of it. And then one of their primary candidates or targets for that vacancy literally locked himself out of it, or pulled himself off the table as an option, and that was Thomas Tuchel, when not so far back ago he committed his long-term future to the England national team. Now, of course, that situation can change should England perform poorly at the FIFA World Cup, because the FA could come down to a quick decision that, well, really, we are just giving you a long-term contract. Given your performances at the World Cup, unfortunately, we cannot move any further with you. We cannot continue with you. Maybe we need to look elsewhere. So he could be back available. But if he does perform poorly with the England national team, it does not give Manchester United any encouragement that then he is the right man for the job. Whereas it would put him back on the market, his CV will not look as impressive. In other words, he will have a dent on his name. So, Thomas Tuchel seems to be out of the way. Now, the other candidates that the club has assessed is Germany's Julian Nagelsmann formerly at RB Leipzig, as well as Bayern Munich, Roberto Di Zerbi, formerly at Shakhtar Donetsk, Brighton and Hove Albion, and Olympique Marseille, among other clubs. Now, we know that Tottenham want Roberto Di Zerbi as their primary candidate to fill their managerial role for the foreseeable future on a permanent basis. That's if they can avoid relegation. Because then, when it comes to their relegation talk, it looks like they could turn to Sean Dyche to rescue them from relegation. We are still waiting to see what decision will Tottenham Hotspurs take in that regard. So, Roberto Di Zerbi is also a target for Tottenham Hotspurs. And then, Mauricio Pochettino, currently with the USA national team. Remember, USA are among the 3 host nations of the FIFA World Cup 2026, in addition to Canada and Mexico. Therefore, there's not been any expectation whatsoever on any teams that are interested in his services, with Manchester United inclusive, as well as Tottenham Hotspurs, that they can woo him away from the USA national team job and appoint him just with less than 2 months or slightly under 2 months left before the World Cup kicks off. So there's that. So those 3 candidates in Julian Nagelsmann, Mauricio Pochettino, and Roberto Di Zerbi have been assessed. But a final decision is yet to be taken. Now, there are also other names that have been mentioned in relations to Manchester United's vacant managerial role that is yet to be filled permanently. Oliver Glasner, who will be leaving Crystal Palace at the end of the season, and Andoni Iraola, whose contract runs out at the end of the season and is yet to renew that contract, but also has attracted interest from his former club in Athletic Bilbao, as well as Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace want to target Andoni Iraola. Those 2 have equally been mentioned in line with Manchester United. Brazil's Carlo Ancelotti has been mentioned. Some wishful people have also mentioned 3 other names in Xabi Alonso, Enzo Maresca, as well as Xavi Hernandez. However, those names are yet to feature prominently in the conversation pertaining Manchester United's managerial role. So, a final decision will not be taken now until the summer. So, that's when the decision will be made. But at the moment, it looks like the gods are singing and dancing in Michael Carrick's favor. Whether that situation will change in 2 months' time, that's between April and May, remains to be seen. The question is, you as a football enthusiast, you as a Manchester United fan, what is your view about all this? At what stage would you rank Michael Carrick? If you had a shortlist based on the names that we've enlisted in this video or otherwise, at what level would you put him? Do you think he should be #1 candidate? A good number of people have said, should he guide Manchester United back to UEFA Champions League, the job should be as good as his. But people like Roy Keane, former Manchester United captain, think otherwise. They think that Manchester United can do better than that. They think Manchester United can get somebody that is a little more experienced than Michael Adrian Carrick. So, give me your thoughts, your views down in the comment section, and let's continue to share about this topic. Otherwise, thank you for taking the time to watch this. Do not forget to like, comment, share with your friends. Until next time. Bye-bye. See you later.